No, don't.
Hello everybody, welcome back to Screenstars. I'm here today to bring you my review for the 2024 religious horror prequel, The First Omen. The film is co-written and directed by Akasha Stevenson, and it stars Nell Tiger-Free, Ralph Ineson and Sonia Braga. Now this is the prequel to the original 3 Omen films, and there is a 4th one as well, but I'm not even sure it's even regarded as canon. And this is set before the first Omen film in the 70s. The film is set in the 70s as well, and it focuses on Margaret, a young nun who is sent to Rome to begin her life of service in the church. Whilst there, she encounters like a real darkness within the church, and she learns of a plot where the church feels that people these days are turning away from the church, and they need something powerful to kind of turn them back to the church, turn them back to religion. So they hatch a plan to have the Antichrist born. Not a great plan, as Tony Stark would say. And so puts in motion this plan to have the Antichrist born, and young Margaret kind of befriends another young girl in the nunnery who she feels very protective of. Right, I don't want to say any more before, so I don't want to spoil it. What are my thoughts on The First Omen? Well, the Omen films are quite a big part of my childhood, actually. I remember watching them when I was young, all the Omen films, and enjoying all of them. I've got quite strong memories of watching The First Omen, and I've told stories before on this channel about, I was around when VHSs first came out, and I remember the first time when my family got a VHS player. And what we used to do is we'd go as a family to the video shop and rent videos. We'd get like family ones for us to watch, and then my dad would kind of rent movies and stuff that we shouldn't watch, and this and other things like Alien and American Wolf in London and all that kind of stuff, I used to kind of sneak and watch when I shouldn't have done. So I've got memories of watching The Omen when I shouldn't have done. It's scaring the bejesus out of me, and checking everybody's head in the playgrounds, to see if they had 666 in the scalp sort of thing. Stupid, I know, but they have an impression on you, these films, when you're young. So I've got a strong connection to the Omen franchise. I haven't watched the Omen films for a long, long time. I'm actually planning to revisit them now after watching this. But I have to say, this film is really quite exquisitely made. It's a very smart film. It's shot in such a way where you never can relax, really, with this film. There's a real undercurrent of I don't know, uncomfortableness when you watch it. It's very cleverly done, and it does actually, there's a real sense of dread, and it does feel part of the other films, which isn't an easy thing to do. This whole plot of, birthing the Antichrist. I mean, from what I remember of the original Omen, I'm sure Damien was born from a dog or something like that, or certainly that was the story. So they're kind of changing the canon here a little bit, but it is done very, very well, and there's a lot of very unnerving and arguably shocking scenes in this film, and very creepily shot as well. So it just it either creeps you out, this film, shocks you, scares you. You never actually feel like there's nothing interesting going on in this film. It's a very smartly shot film, I have to say. And there's some really creepy imagery in this film, and it never manages, if you like. You can never relax when you're watching this film. You're always uncomfortable. There's something going on in almost every frame that's interesting or creeps you out. Right? And it doesn't steal from the originals, and mainly I'm going off the first one here, but it pays homage to it, if that makes sense. I mean, there's a very shockingly or frightening scene from the first Omen where the nanny kind of, hangs herself from the rooftops before shouting, "It's all for you, Damien, it's all for you." And there's a very similar scene in this, but they kind of up the ante a little bit and make it even worse than the first Omen. But it's stuff like that where it doesn't feel like it's stealing from the first one. It just kind of feels appropriate to kind of be linked to the first film. And I do like how they kind of tied it into the Omen franchise. It doesn't feel like it's cheapened it at all. And in actual fact, I would very much like to see more of this. And I don't know if the plan is to kind of go now and redo the Omen, which would be silly because they've already tried to remake it. And while I have watched that, and I do believe I have reviewed it on the channel, the one with Lee Schreiber, I thought it was decent enough, but I don't sure they should be treading over that familiar ground. But from what I can gather, this is getting good critical praise from critics and audience members. And I don't think it's doing gangbusters at the cinema, but it's probably going to do reasonably well. So we know what these studios like. They may turn around and say, right, okay, let's do that then. Let's continue this story. But I was impressed with this. It's a very well made, constructed horror film that kind of doesn't let up, and that the bits in between the scares and the creepiness never really gets you to the point where you're not interested. It's very smart dialogue. I think it's paced just right. It's not like jump scares, cheap jump scares anywhere. They all feel earned, the scares for the most part here. And, it really does have some very unnerving, creepy stuff going on in the film. It's pitched just right. I think it's quite a grown-up horror film, is what I'm trying to say. There's a lot of horror films out there that, that are made just for kind of cheap thrills and scares. This one taps into something else. It's a nicely made, well made film with impressive scenes, good scares, and earned scares, and fits in beautifully with the rest of the Omen franchise. So yeah, I was suitably impressed with this one. So check it out if you get the chance, guys. I'm looking forward to revisiting the Omen films now, and I will of course be back with plenty more reviews and content on the channel very, very soon.